Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of Interesting People of Earth, a digital campfire for meaningful dialogue about life, purpose, society, and all the things that make us human. My purpose with this is simple: to create a space for real, unfiltered conversations with everyday humans doing fascinating things, from artists and thinkers to activists, immigrants, and dreamers. People who may not be household names, but whose stories hold profound lessons about what it means to be alive right now on this planet. Because let's be honest, we're living in an era where information travels faster than reflection. We're constantly informed, rarely inspired. We scroll past thousands of opinions before we've even had our morning coffee. And somewhere in between all of that noise, the quiet space for thinking and feeling gets lost. And that's where this podcast comes in. In a world that rewards quick takes, short clips, I want interesting people of Earth to do the opposite. I want to slow things down and dig deeper into the messy, beautiful layers of the human experience with the nuance and grace it deserves. The format will be a mix of guest interviews and solo deep dives. Some episodes will be featured conversations with guests. The format will be a mix of guest interviews and solo deep dives. Some episodes will feature conversations with guests, while others will just be me exploring in depth a topic that's been on my mind or that I feel like is relevant to the conversation at the moment. Either way, the podcast will never be celebrity driven, although it's easy for me to say that right now. Watch me bite my words. Either way, the podcast will never be celebrity driven. Although it's easy for me to say that right now, watch me eat my words in a few years. But the intention for now is that it will always be human driven. It will always be about the connection, the chemistry, the conversation. Because my goal for each episode is to feel like you're sitting down with a friend, someone who makes you think, laugh, cry. Because the goal of each episode is to make you feel like you're sitting down with a friend, someone who makes you think, laugh, maybe even cry. Because since moving to Amsterdam, I live here now, I've been meeting all sorts of fascinating people who think deeply, who create, who have stories that completely shift the way that you see the world. And what's beautiful is that those conversations don't always happen in studios or on a stage. Sometimes they happen in cafes, sometimes at the bus stop, and sometimes over drunk late night fries. Those are the kind of stories that I want to bring here. The ones that remind you of how complex, strange, and extraordinary it is to be a human, especially a human today in this liminal space between two very distinct eras. Some of the themes we'll explore in this podcast include the meaning of authenticity in a filtered world, whether we even have a good gauge of what authenticity means anymore. Have we lost the plot on what's real? And if we can package and sell authenticity, does that make it less authentic? We will explore identity, belonging, and creativity. How identity isn't just about labels or heritage, but about how we choose to express ourselves. How belonging can both be a comfort and a cage. We will explore personal growth and emotional intelligence and why EQ should really be the baseline, not the bonus feature, and how we can cultivate self-awareness without being self-critical and drowning in self-critique. We will talk about modern culture and societal change, looking at the state of humanity, how we've evolved, what we've learned, and maybe what we've forgotten along the way. Humor, humility, and the absurdity of existence, because we can't take it too seriously, okay? Life is bizarre. And sometimes laughter is the most philosophical response there is. And of course, socio-political discourse, unpacked thoughtfully and with nuance, because context matters, tone matters, and intention matters. So if this sounds like your kind of space, welcome. I'd love for you to follow me along on this journey. And if this sounds like your kind of space, welcome. I'd love for you to follow me along on this journey. You've probably seen my recent emphasis on attempt, at sparking conversation around a group I may or may not have incorrectly dubbed the authoritarian left. The whole experience has reminded me of something really important. which is that online discourse needs nuance and nuance needs time. Most of our digital spaces aren't built for that. They reward the sharpest take, not the most thoughtful one. And that's exactly why I wanted to create this podcast. I want to create a slower, more intentional space for conversation, a space where ideas can stretch their legs, where people can be fully human, where we can talk without trying to win, where I'll be more careful with my language, because at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure out what it means to be alive right now in this weird and wonderful moment in history. I know I'm still calling it wonderful, even though it feels like everything sucks. It's a moment in history that is leaving a vacuum for a lot of opportunity. And yes, I will also be citing my sources. So, welcome again to Interesting People of Earth. I'm your host, Onyinye Ijeh, and welcome to the beginning. Now, if you're still here, thank you. First of all, thank you. I want to share a little bit of behind the scenes of how the podcast came to light, because if I'm being honest, I've been wanting to create long-form content for a really long time. In fact, I already have a podcast. I made it during the COVID lockdowns where the world felt so small, but so big at the same time. And I think only my family listened, probably. I've made a ton of YouTube clips and videos that will never see the light of day, okay? Because I just didn't really know what I wanted to say. I didn't know how I wanted to say it. I didn't know what format I wanted it to be, but I knew I wanted something like this. And since then, so much has happened. Life has happened. I've moved across the world. I've switched careers. I found things, lost things. And along the way, I realized something, especially when you spend a lot of time in airports and you have these really deep conversations with people. I realized that every time I met someone interesting, the best part was the conversation. And it wasn't the small talk, it wasn't the awkwardness, it was digging deep, getting straight to the point with people and revealing how they see the world. And I realized that I was fascinated by that. I was fascinated by how we see things so differently. And then I realized maybe my purpose here isn't just to teach and tell people about the things on my mind, but it's also to just listen, because I feel like many of us in my generation, at least, we were raised online. Because I feel like many of us in my generation, at least, we grew up online. I truly was raised by YouTube, okay? I used to watch YouTube all the time. I watched the old British YouTubers, the early wave, Zoella, Casper, Marcus, Josag. I'm forgetting Zoella's husband name now. And I even actually bumped into Casper, Marcus, Josag at a lounge in London a few years back with my friend. And obviously they do not remember me, but I definitely remember that moment. I watched people like Philip DeFranco and learned to love the news again. I watch creators, so many creators I can't even name right now, who made me feel, who made me think, who reminded me that ideas mattered. And I think for a lot of us, the internet wasn't just entertainment. It was a classroom, a community, sometimes even a therapist. Now the internet feels so different, more performative, more transactional, more fragmented. And I guess this podcast is my way of reclaiming a bit of that early internet magic, the part of us, the part of it that was curious, thoughtful, human, at least my corners that were. So whether you're someone who loves ideas or someone who just loves hearing how other people think and how they think about things, you're in the right place. I don't have all the answers. Far from it, but I have a lot of questions. And I think that the right questions can be a doorway into something really beautiful and really insightful. And just hearing other people process the world can just be truly magical. And over time, I hope this podcast becomes more than just a show. I hope that it becomes a little community, a constellation of people who value depth, honesty, humor, and are curious more than anything. I want this to be that kind of space where someone can say, hey, that episode made me see myself and see things differently. Or that conversation made me want to be a better person, made me want to be kinder. And I would have accomplished everything that I wanted. That's it. That's the goal. So wherever you're listening from, whether you're walking, cleaning, commuting, or hiding from your responsibilities, no judgment, thank you for tuning in. This is Interesting People of Earth, and this is just the beginning. I'm Onyinye Ijeh, and I hope you stay a while. Done.